Weeks after calling the Empowering Parents grant program a success, after an external audit found families only misused $40,000 of the $40 million given out, Governor Brad Little is about to end it. This was an idea that was floated yesterday during the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee meeting. Granted, the grant program is only a couple of years old, but those behind it, like the governor and the state superintendent, they both were touting how it helped more than 45,000 Idaho families, quote, fill the gap by giving them up to $3,000 to buy supplemental educational supplies. It began as a federally funded program and was a product of the pandemic to help families overcome learning loss during that time. But last year, based on its success, the program was funded by $30 million in state dollars. However, just like that trip to Disney, extras are one of the first things to go when the Gem State's income levels are also no longer boosted by the pandemic.
We have first on the agenda, Mr. Alex J. Adams.
The state's administrator of the Division of Financial Management, basically the Gov's budget guy, Alex Adams was in front of JFAC Wednesday to offer what is usually a formality, the governor's budget revisions.
This year we also did add what we called a conditional revision.
Revisions are expected.
The economy is returning to normal. Idaho is seeing revenue growth, but at pre-pandemic levels.
After Governor Little introduced his $5.3 billion budget on the first day of the legislative session, sometimes there are mistakes or items just left out. So week 2 of the session is usually when those things are corrected. And sometimes the money the governor thinks he has to spend is a bit off.
Revenue forecasting is a fancy way of saying revenue guessing.
Division of Financial Management, Executive Revenue Projection.
Which is where the Economic Outlook and Revenue Assessment Committee comes in.
You've seen the governor's number.
So EROC recommended a revenue projection of $5.59 billion, which is 1.7% below the budget that the governor's office submitted.
If budgets are a balancing act, when the revenue comes down, well, you're forced to recalibrate. A week ago, the state expected to finish the year with an ending balance of about $265 million, the required rainy day fund. But with current revenue expectations lower, that number is closer to $200 million. So to get there, Adams had 2 recommendations for JFAC. Lower the expectation of the rainy day fund, which is supposed to be 15% of revenue. That's the first.
And then the second, we recommended that the program that could be eliminated is the Empowering Parents program.
The Empowering Parents program, which has helped more than 45,000 Idaho families overcome learning loss and education deficiencies after the pandemic. Ending that program would return $30 million a year the state gave the program last year.
The elimination of that would get the ending balance up to $200 million ongoing, maintain that structural balance over time, and ensure that this budget remains balanced over the 5-year forecast. So.
Budget meetings are so exciting, aren't they? Okay, so what happens to those families who have signed up for the Empowering Parents program since, like, November, which we learned was about 24,000 families hoping to supplement more than 47,000 students? Will it end immediately, or will it continue through July, which is the end of the fiscal year? We asked those questions of the program coordinator, and we were directed to the governor's office. And as for Governor Little's office, they said with the adoption of a lower revenue forecast by the legislature's Economic Outlook and Revenue Assessment Committee, the governor has put forth options to balance the budget. That's it. That's all they said. Here are your options. One of 2 things. We also heard from State Superintendent Debbie Critchfield, who said, while I've been a proponent of the Empowering Parents program, I recognize that this type of scrutiny is par for the course during a legislative session, and we as a state are not in the same financial position as we have been in the past few years. It's worth mentioning the cut is just a recommendation right now, and someone could come up with a solution to keep it. We'll see. Plus, that new revenue forecast that is lower than it was 2 weeks ago is still waiting to be accepted finally by JFAC.